Good morning and a happy, terrific Tuesday. Thank you for joining us for H3 TV, a talk show where we encourage people on different ways to weather the storms of their life, to use hope, health, and happiness to get through the challenges we face, whether that's a literal storm like the hurricane, a personal storm like things going on with the people we love, or a professional storm where there's obstacles and challenges in our organization or with our team, and we need some encouragement. We hope that what we share with you today will give you just a little bit of encouragement, inspiration, motivation, and even activation to look at things differently and to approach them differently. Today, my guest is Shannon. Please help me welcome Shannon to the show. Hey, Shannon, thanks for being with me.
Hi, Annie. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So tell us about you. Who are you? Where do you live? What do you do?
Yeah. So my name is Shannon Jones. I am a CMP, which I'm very proud of. I live just outside of Nashville, Tennessee, in Hendersonville, but I grew up in Connecticut, so I'm a Yankee, I say. But I'm a Southern Yankee now. I've been here about 17 years. I have been in the meetings industry for about 16 of those 17 years and absolutely love it. I work for a company called Destination South Meetings and Events. I'm on the meetings management team of that company. We have a DMC side as well in the Atlanta and Coastal Carolinas areas, but myself and the meetings team, we're all over. So we have a lot of fun with that.
It's so nice that you can work from anywhere. So do you work at home?
I do work from home. Yes.
Lots of flexibility. Yeah. So today what I'm thinking about, Shannon, is storm. What do you even clarify as a storm? What is a storm to you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like you said in your intro, there's literal storms, which unfortunately our country and other countries have suffered through lately. And my neighborhood went through a tornado not too long ago, and that was terrifying. So I've been through that kind of storm. But I think there are personal and professional storms as well, something that just kind of comes in and mixes you up a little bit and challenges you to get through it and probably grow and hopefully learn something along the way and come out better on the other side. So that would be my thoughts on storms.
I like it. So when we think about your life, what has been a storm that you have faced in your lifetime?
Gosh, I think we all go through things every now and again, but I think one of my biggest storms and what really has shaped who I am personally and professionally is I was in a terrible marriage. We'll just use the word terrible. It was abusive. It was abusive physically, emotionally, verbally, and it was something I never saw coming. I fell in love with him. I think he fell in love with me. We got married. And there was a lot of trials. There was a lot of growth to be had. I was young 20s. We were 24 when we met, a couple days shy of 25 when we got married. I grew up in your very atypical American family. I was the oldest. I was the older sister. I had a younger brother. We had a golden retriever. We had the white picket fence. I mean, parents that I never saw fight, and I just grew up what a lot of people would classify as perfectly. And domestic violence and abusive relationships were things that you only saw in the movies and TV shows and, heard stories about, but never would that ever happen to me. So when it started happening, it was terrifying. And it took a long time to realize that it was going on. Truthfully, it started before we even got married, and I made the choice to get into the marriage anyway. But what I experienced through that and what I grew through that, I don't regret. And looking back, if I could go back and do it all over again, I think that I would, because I grew and I learned so much from having gone through that. My only hope and the reason that I love to tell my story is because I hope that it will encourage any women or men that are in a same scenario as I was.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. I want to say also, I forgot to say to our listeners, if you have a comment or a question for myself or for Shannon throughout the show, put it in the box. If we don't get to it during the show, we'll definitely respond in the comments on social media. Shannon, I would say that 2.3 kids, white picket fence is maybe the ideal or the perfect, as you said. I think it can also set us up for naivety because we kind of think that's how we live through the lens of rose-colored glasses, which I still try to do, even though that's not my story. But you can be naive, and master manipulators and abusers can prey on that naivety. And sometimes, like you said, hindsight's 2022. As you look back, you might realize, oh, there was symbols, signs of emotional, physical, verbal abuse prior to the marriage. A lot of people don't know that they're even in an abusive relationship, even when it's happening to them, because they justify and the abuser justifies. So I love that you're willing to talk about this, because I know, sadly, that as young as junior high, I have met girls in particular. I know some boys are abused too, but girls that are like, but he doesn't mean it, and he's sorry, and he's trying. And I'm like, no, 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 no. This is not, you don't deserve this. So thank you for sharing that. So Shannon, when you look back on that massive storm, a couple things. One, I wondered, how long were you in the relationship? How long did it take you to get out? And then how did you stay hopeful in the midst? Because there's a psychological abuse that's almost more damaging, psychological, emotional, than the physical and verbal, because you start to believe what the abuser tells you, right?
Yeah. So we were together 10 months before we got married. And then, which is short, I know. I'm a hopeless romantic. I grew up in hopeless romance, and that just was gonna be my story. And my mom had me when she was 23, and I was always gonna have kids young. I was gonna mimic that because that's what I knew and loved. But so we were together 10 months before we got married, and we were married, funny enough, 3 years to the day, and before our divorce was final. So, but we were separated for a good 6 to 7 months while we were in the divorce process. And yeah, like you spoke about, it very much became, he was a gaslighter to every definition of the word. Anything that went wrong was my fault. It was because I was not good enough. I was crazy. I was angry. I was, not confident. All of these things. And I think my shelter from the storm, I started to believe a lot of it. So I kind of started to give up on myself in places where, physically I was not comfortable. I was not happy.
Do you have a child?
No, I have a dog who's acting.
Oh.
I'm not paying attention, and she's. Do you hear her?
I do. It's okay. My dog's sound asleep next to me, but we got up at 6 and we walked and we played. So
oh my gosh, I'm
you're
so
fine.
sorry.
It's totally fine.
With all the loud toys.
Yeah. Welcome to the new normal of everybody. You find out everybody has a pet, right? So no worries.
Yes.
Anyway,
yes.
okay.
I do have children. That's a whole nother story I can get into. But yeah, so really, I was able to find a community that I could trust with what was going on in my life, and a couple people that were able to stand by my side and pick me up. Funny enough, to tie this back to professional life and growth, I was starting my career in the meetings industry during this marriage, during this time. And so I was finding a lot of reprieve in learning something new, growing with a new career, meeting new friends, meeting a new community. I got encouraged to join professional organizations. MPI eventually became my professional home of choice. All the others are phenomenal. I've been members and been to lots of other activities still go, but MPI became my home of choice, and that family is really what kind of got me through those hardest times. I was embarrassed about all of it, and so I didn't lean on my immediate family, which probably is a good thing, because there's no chance that that man would still be breathing today if my dad had gotten a hold of the situation. But that was the hardest part for me, was coming to terms with the fact that that I had to tell my family eventually what was going on and why we were getting to that point. That's probably the one regret, is that I wish I had included them sooner, and made them aware and had their support, because they undoubtedly would have been there to
And maybe you're saying it's a regret. I want to take that away from you, that you did it exactly how you knew how to do it at that time.
Yeah.
And your own pain and suffering added with your dad's anger might not have helped you process the way you did. But you said a couple things of how you stayed hopeful. And one thing, I guess, before I get to that, is that a big part of my business is teaching people to rewrite their stories. And why I do that is because, just like you said, when you were here repeatedly enough, you're the problem, if you're crazy, you're this, you're all this negativity, we start to believe it as our truth. And then we start to show up with all that thinking, I'm not enough, I'm the problem, no matter where I go, I cause problems, people don't like me, I don't have, and that, again, psychological and emotional abuse that comes, that gets you stuck to stay there, which master abusers know how to do that, and use fear and doubt in yourself to do that. So I love that you have rewritten that. I also love that you said you found, and I think this is important for our listeners, you found a couple people that you could share with and support you. Sometimes everybody cannot support you. Everybody cannot understand people's own anger and own whatever. It seems to me you did exactly what you needed to do at the time. So I hope you have no regret, because you got a couple people and then you went and found a community and focused on something good in your life. You were becoming a successful meeting planner. MPI is a great organization. It's other people. It's, people that are going to support you and hold you up. So I love that you did that. So I want to know, and this is part of your health too, is finding that community. But what did you do to take care of your health, and whatever health that is? I think of health in 7 areas: our career, our relationships, our finances, our spiritual, our emotional and mental, and our physical health. So health is a lot of things. So was there an area of your health that you're like, you know what, I'm going to do this so I have the strength to leave? How did you take care of your health, and what did you do in the midst of that strength?
Yeah. I did end up going to counseling for a little bit. That was challenging for me. I wish that I had gone a little bit more. I think the counselors I got connected with, I didn't really connect with. And I also, in that time, didn't really know how to express what I was feeling and what I was struggling with. And I think I wasn't being fully honest with myself. So I also wasn't going to be fully honest with a counselor. Took a lot of time to digest it. And then, I saw a picture one time. I've worked for Margaritaville, the restaurant. That was my first career job as a sales and events manager. And I saw a picture when we were throwing a Jimmy Buffett street party, and I just looked at that picture and I was like, God, that is just not me. I had gained a lot of weight. I wasn't taking care of myself. I just wasn't confident in me internally or externally. And so I really had a woman I worked with who was also kind of feeling the same way. And we challenged each other to get physically healthy. And we did that together. And so that was a big player in the game for me, gaining confidence. I was growing in my career. I was growing in my leadership positions. I had my VP of sales at the time, her best piece of advice she ever gave to me was get out there, do everything, and meet everybody. And it's simple words, but it is what spiraled my career into where it is now, grew my career because I did. I started to get out there, do everything, and meet everybody. And although I had this piece of my life going on in the background, I was able to figure out how to put it aside and put on a strong face and go do those things. And those are the people that became my community, personally and professionally. And so I think that is how I took care of myself, emotionally and physically. But it wasn't like I just woke up one morning and was like, okay, I'm going to lose 40 pounds and I'm going to make great friends and I'm going to tell my story. It was challenging, and it was over time, and definitely not without its pitfalls.
Yeah, of course, because it's a journey. I mean,
Right.
that's the thing. You don't just arrive. It is a journey for sure. And I love that I think all of those things, whether it was dealing with your physical health, dealing with your career health, was building your confidence. You know what? This might not be great. And I can't tell everybody, but there's a couple people, and I'm going to do I love the serenity prayer. I'm a big, like, control what you can control. Like,
Yeah.
you couldn't control him. You couldn't change him. You were slowly changing your circumstance, but you had to first gain some inner strength, gain some, you know what? That picture of who I am is not who I am. I'm going to get back to who I was. And when we don't feel good about ourselves, it's very, very challenging to take care of ourselves physically and be healthy and eat well and be active when we're beaten down emotionally and mentally every day. So
Yeah.
congratulations on getting past that part and being in this part of your life. How about humor or happiness in the midst of that storm? Where did you find some joy or humor or happiness?
Yeah, so I have always been a huge lover of music. My dad raised me on James Taylor and Yes and Phil Collins, and I mean, the list goes on and on. We always had music on in my house. We listened to music at dinner. We sat around the campfire. Every time we drove, we would pick a new CD. So, you know, music was a big part of my life, and my mom raised me on country music. So 90s country, Garth Brooks. And I mean, again, the list goes on and on. And so when I came to Nashville, that's one of the reasons that I came. I don't sing, I don't play. I am an avid concert goer and lover of music. And so I really found happiness in just diving into the music space that Nashville offers so well. Lots of live music, and really just finding the words of songs that spoke to me and explained in ways that I couldn't, the ways that I was feeling at the time. And so that's a lot of what I did. I ended up actually working at the Ryman Auditorium as a part-time job, which was amazing. And so I got to just engulf myself in music pretty frequently. And with Margaritaville too. I mean, Margaritaville is built on the premise of music as well. So that is really where I found myself.
What a beautiful way, yeah, to take care of yourself. I love that. I love music. I live on Fort Myers Beach is really where my home is. It's not where I am right now because of the hurricane, but Margaritaville is getting ready to open there.
Yeah.
And we're so excited to have them coming. But music. And I love also what you said. So I love music. I love concerts. I am not a great singer, but I sing really loud.
Same.
I love it. Like, it just brings you such joy. But you also, what you said, which I think is so important for our listeners, I wanted to repeat, is that you said the music gave you the words. And that's what I think such a gift. When we are heartbroken, when we are overwhelmed, sometimes listening to uplifting or to soothing music can give us the words and help us release all the pain that is within us through these storms of our lives. Is there anything, as you look back, I never want you to have regret, but is there something like hindsight 2020 when you look back and go, I wish I would have done this differently. I wish I would have known this then. Anything like that?
Yeah. I mean, I say that I wish it hadn't happened to me because I wish it doesn't happen to anybody. But I'm not sure that I would be as strong and as confident today as I am if I hadn't gone through that. the first time that he put his hands on me was Christmas Eve. We weren't married yet. We were engaged. And I remember I just like, I blacked out because I didn't know what was happening. And I got in my car with the clothes on my back and my purse, and I started driving. And I was going to drive to the airport. That's the direction I was headed. I didn't care how much it was going to cost me. I had very little money, but I was going to make it happen. And I was going to get on a plane and I was going to go home. And home was Connecticut. That's where my parents were. And I was here in Nashville. And something turned me around. His brother called me and begged me to come back. And he was so sorry and he was so upset. And, I didn't get to the airport. But sometimes I wonder, had I gone to the airport, what would have happened? Sorry.
No, sorry. Please never apologize for emotions. It's part of the healing.
Yeah. So that is, that's not a regret. I don't regret that I didn't end up at the airport, but I wonder a lot of times, what if I had? We never would have been married. I never would have had that first marriage. But
has he gotten help today?
I don't know anything about him, to be truly honest.
And that's okay. That's
yeah. Perfect. No, I mean, I do wonder, because how do you not wonder? I believe he doesn't live in the area anymore. Heard through the grapevine he struggled with addiction for a while. Not when we were married, oddly enough, that I'm aware of. But so yeah, I don't know. I hope that he has. I have seen pictures of him with other women, and I hope that they are not being treated the same way that I was.
I always think hurt people hurt people. And when I hear about abusers, which unfortunately there's way too many in the world in lots of ways, I always think, what happened to them that became a normal? And I pray for them. Do they get the help they need? Because nobody feels good about themselves when they're hurting another person. Not only is it horrible for the victim, but it's horrible for the abuser. Like, that's a horrible way to go through life. So I'm so sorry that happened to you and that you went through it. And I'm so glad you're brave and on the other side. So what do you do, Shannon, with the lessons you've learned from this storm and this experience? Do you use it to how do you pay it forward? How are you using it to protect and help other people, including being here today as well? It's a great way to be vulnerable and share, because I know there's listeners in abusive relationships. We just know it statistically. So.
Yeah. So I've told my story a lot. I was embarrassed by it. I'm not embarrassed by it at all anymore. I think that it made me incredibly strong, because I was able to come out on the other side of it. And so I tell my story a lot. I have never told it from a stage or in a super public space. My longtime friends and family know. And, they've asked me I've been asked to share it with friends and family and people that we know are in challenging situations like I was. I do hope to one day share it more and wider, because I know that I am a success story from it. But also, I love people. People are at the core of why I do everything that I do, right? I'm a meeting planner. So I bring people together with the common goal to make them happy and successful and learn something and make friends. And, whatever the goal of the program is, I'm along for the ride to achieve that. But I also I'm still heavily involved in volunteering with the MPI organization. And so being able to bring members together and, change people's worlds in that way, all of those desires and those volunteer roles and leadership roles are things that I have gotten involved in because of where I came from. So, those are kind of my next moves into using my story to make other people better and stronger.
And just being open, when you put yourself in front of people in my work, so many people share their stories with me after I speak, because I touch on many things, but I don't go too deep. but I make people know it's safe to come to me. And often people will be like, I haven't told anybody, but, and so I think the more that we are, hey, I'm going to be around people, I'm going to be real, I'm going to say marriage is hard, I'm going to say life is challenging, I'm not going to act perfectly put together, because wherever we come from, we go through things in our lives. And so I love that you're just with people, will give opportunities for someone to say, hey, just so you know, I'm having a bad day. And whether it's a similar situation or different, they realize you're an authentic person who knows pain and challenges and has overcome them to be a success story. So that's awesome. Is there one last things you'd like to tell our listeners? Is there anything that you feel like we didn't touch on, or something?
Yeah, I just so I am a wife and I am a mom now in a happy, healthy relationship. So I think that is, something that positive that has come of this. And my husband has 3 biological children that we are in the process of me adopting. So that's a lot of fun. But I have 2 teenage girls and a teenage boy, and they know my story because I think it's important. And so I'm able to also use my story to support and help teach and protect my kids too. And so it's that's the best thing that's come of this. I didn't meet him because of my ex-husband in any way, shape, or form, but being in that helped me to be able to identify what a healthy relationship looks like. And so it can and it will be better for anybody that is in this scenario. I am more than happy to have deeper conversations with anybody that would want to connect with me on LinkedIn. I can send my contact information if you need to talk, but I would love to be a support for anybody in that scenario or potential other challenges, because this isn't the only storm that
That's
I've
right.
weathered. It's just the biggest one. But yeah,
And
so
we need each other. And so thank you for offering that. I will encourage you to please write any contact information you're comfortable in the comments on
sure.
all our social media so people can reach out. We know that our listeners, somebody out there is in an abusive relationship. And I think one of the things that abusers really drill into people is nobody else is going to want you. You're lucky that I want you. And so I love that you're sharing, hey, there is hope on the other side of that, and there is love, and there is a healthy relationship waiting for you, and not that you need to move from one to the other, but knowing there is a bright light. I think so many people, there's a lot of reasons people stay, but one of the reasons is they stay because they feel like, well, I don't want to be alone the rest of my life. And if I'm not with him, who would want me? And I'm like, that's a conditioning by an abuser that convinced you, but that is not a true story. So I
Oh,
love that you share that. Yeah. And for me, hope so often is about looking back and looking forward, right? Like, look at how far you've come. Like you said, I am a success story. And that's what I want people to know, is no matter how much you're hurting, no matter how hard your career is, your personal relationships, or even a literal storm you're going through, there is hope, and there is sunshine and sun rays and sunsets on the other side of it. So don't give up on your dreams, and reach out to Shannon or myself if you have questions or comments or needs help. Thanks so much for being with me, Shannon, today.
thanks for having me, Annie.
Yes, thanks for sharing your storm, and thanks for listening. We will see you all next week on H3 TV, where we weather storms together with hope, health, and happiness.
Bye, everyone.